Show me.
Welcome! Hello everyone, I am the Martial Arts Film Freak, and today I want to talk about something that, I want to recommend some stuff that it's a bit random, but the world is random. I want to recommend some really good martial arts documentaries. I just watched one today because I wanted to get it off, I wanted to get it in my brain, I wanted to get it off my list of movies I needed to watch, and it was really good, but I'll talk about that a bit later. There are documentaries on both martial arts movies, martial artists, like just certain martial arts styles through history, and like just the history of it all, just all of it. And there's some really good ones out there that I don't think people have seen enough of, and I'd like more people to get out there and see. Let's start with some stuff that I remember first coming across on television. There was a very cool series, I think on like Nat Geo, maybe on History Channel, called Fight Science. I think that was the one. These early ones are going to be the ones that I have very little recollection of, but remember some cool stuff happening. Fight Science took like a bunch of traditional styles and put like charts and numbers and science to it, and was like, how real is this? How like powerful is this style's punch compared to this style's punch? And the one episode I definitely remember is the episode where they had Lateef Crowder. You may recognize Lateef Crowder as Eddie Gordo from the Tekken movie, also Eddie Gordo from Real Life. He fought Scott Adkins in one of Scott Adkins' best movies of all time, best fights of all time. Screw it, one of his best movies of all time. He also fought Tony Jaa in his first fight scene in The Protector or Tom Yum Goong. He's also in Falcon Rising. But they did an episode where they wanted to see like which style had the more powerful kick, and no big fancy kick, just sort of your basic kick from certain styles. And so they took I think they took karate and Muay Thai, Taekwondo, and Capoeira. That's where Lateef Crowder comes in. And they had each of them kicking this bag right in this pressure point. And I think the two top ones were like Taekwondo and Capoeira, but I think Capoeira inched it out by a bit. But it's a very cool series where they just put the real life science to real traditional styles, and it was super fun to watch. The next one is one that I don't remember much about, but I've seen a little bit of. It's called Extreme Martial Arts, and the reason this one is so cool is because it is, I guess, put together by maybe Matt Mullins. I know he's part of it, but Matt Mullins, who's amazing in a bunch of stuff. You can't really find him in many movies, sadly. He's in Blood and Bone, Best Fight in Blood and Bone, and he's in Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. I haven't seen Kamen Rider, but he's in it. He's also in a little bit of Wrath of Vajra, but mostly you'll probably see him in a fight scene with Scott Adkins or Michael Jai White in the miniseries Metal Hurlant Chronicles. But he's great. The other guy who runs it, who I think mostly put it together, is mostly remembered, most fondly by me, of course. You see all this crap I got back here. He was the Blue Lightspeed Ranger in the very early 2000s. One of my favorite Rangers, just because it's cool when you get to see a Ranger who doesn't need the suit on to be awesome. You know, Tommy never needed the suit to just kick the crap out of people. And Mike Chad is that way. I don't know his full name. His very long name. Mike Chatterantabut. I'm not going to say it again because I'm going to mess it up and feel bad. They did something that I'm most definitely sure was on Discovery Channel called Extreme Martial Arts that you should definitely check out. The last one that I saw on TV that was more of a television show, that was more of an episodic series, is called Fight Quest. It was where, I don't know who these two guys were, but it was where this one guy was an MMA fighter, this other guy was like ex-special forces, and they would travel together to these different countries, and they would go study their martial art. And they would split up. One would go with a certain type of school. The other would go with a school where it was just a different style. Like the one that always comes to mind is they go to Indonesia for Pencak Silat, and this was a little bit before the raid, so Silat had not exploded like it has now. But I remember one of them goes to this school that's a bit more modern, and the other goes to this school which is really just this woman living in the woods, and totally different training techniques, totally different teaching styles, and in the end they come to this tournament and they fight each other and, you know, just sort of see how they fare at it. Not necessarily which teacher taught it better, but just how they fare at this martial art and how they learned it. Really cool series. They went, they learned Taekwondo in Korea. They learned Pencak Silat in Indonesia. They did a whole bunch of these episodes that are all really cool. Matter of fact, you can probably even find them on YouTube. Definitely recommend it because it's just fun and awesome. This next one aired on Spike, but I think you can find it a whole bunch of places. I don't think Spike is a channel anymore. But it is called I Am Bruce Lee, and it doesn't take much to figure it out. It is a documentary about Bruce Lee. And it talks to everybody. It talks to modern-day fighters, action stars, his family, his students and friends at the time. It's just about his life growing up and his impact on the world and film and martial arts as a whole. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Check it out. This next one is a documentary about martial arts, more of just kung fu film. Not necessarily martial arts, but kung fu just directly. And it's from a guy named Rick Myers, who's super cool. He is the go-to guy to talk about martial arts movies. And the cool thing is, typically if you email him or message him, he messages back. I had messaged him something about, like a week ago, and I was like, oh, I'll probably get back to me in a couple days. Dude texted back in like, I don't know, 20 minutes. It's pretty nice guy. He wrote a book about kung fu movies, and I guess just sort of their influence on film as a whole, and it's called Films of Fury, the book, I think, something like that. I'll put a picture of it somewhere over here. But he made a movie of it too, and it's called Films of Fury. Oh no, Films of Fury, the Kung Fu Movie book, and the movie is called Films of Fury, the Kung Fu movie. And it's just a fun documentary where this little like animated character sort of runs down the history all the way from, I think, like early Wong Fei-hung characters on Wong Fei-hung movies, all the way to, I think it came out in late 2000s, so it probably runs all the way up to like Ip Man. It doesn't talk about anything other than kung fu, so you're not going to find like Ong Bak. You're not going to find anything outside of China and a little bit of America. It talks a bit about Bond, talks about the Matrix. That's pretty much it, though. It's mostly all kung fu stuff, but it is a very cool, very entertaining documentary. Next up is a really cool one. You can find it on Amazon Prime. I think it was like a PBS thing. It is called The Black Kung Fu Experience. I think that's, yes, The Black Kung Fu Experience. It is sort of about like black culture, the impact that kung fu cinema had on black culture, but specifically it focuses on this select group of people that all did something in martial arts. Like one of them being the Black Dragon is just this, this black kid learned martial arts, and he went over to Hong Kong and he became the first like non-Chinese black like kung fu star in Hong Kong. It's just about all these different masters. Like they're these masters who learned kung fu and opened their own schools, and some of them like sort of mesh in some more like African traditional stuff added with their kung fu experience. Different schools, different styles, different teachings, different methods, different philosophies. Really cool people to learn about, really cool thing to focus on, and I definitely recommend checking that one out. It is on Amazon Prime. If you have that, it's right there. If not, I don't know how you get it, but find it and watch it. The Black Kung Fu Experience. It's really good. Just two more. Ride with me here. Stick with me. This next one is, I guess, sort of a successor to Films of Fury. This one just came out this year. It just got done with a bunch of film festivals where it was getting a whole bunch of praise. It is very long. It's like 2 hours, which is kind of, in my mind, it's long for a documentary, but it's still really good. I just watched it like 20 minutes ago, and it is called Iron Fist and Kung Fu Kicks. The reason I say this is a successor to Films of Fury is because Films of Fury focuses solely on kung fu films, kung fu genre, and kung fu films' influence on Western film. Maybe some films all across the world, maybe, but mostly just film. It stays in film. It doesn't do anything else. And that's what Iron Fist and Kung Fu Kicks does differently. It talks about, it starts at the very beginning of Shaw Brothers, and it's sort of, it's start from, it took this opera house stuff and made it into film, and then dove more into kung fu stuff, and then how America got these kung fu films and how those kung fu films influenced Americans and American society and Black America, and eventually got on not children's TV, but it came on TV at home with I guess Kung Fu Hour or something like that. And my dad was watching this and he was freaking out because he used to watch this stuff on TV. But it talks about everything. It goes all the way up to modern day. So it even talks about the Raid. It talks about Ong Bak. It goes outside of just kung fu films. It is much more just martial arts in general. And when I say it's more than just the movies, it's how these kung fu movies influence like hip hop and b-boy dance style, and how Jackie Chan influenced parkour over in France, and how in the finale of it is sort of how these kung fu movies influenced this filmmaker in Uganda. And this guy says, I think that somebody in India will see this movie made in Uganda and it'll click with them, and someday we'll know that kid in India's name. And it just kind of shows the power of just a kid finding a movie and just saying, and just being inspired to make something good. Like, you don't have to just make a movie. Like, some kids saw 36 Chamber from Shaolin and thought, I'm gonna rap, I'm gonna dance, I'm gonna go do free running, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that. You can do anything. And it shows you the bizarreness and sort of a bit of racial tension within kung fu films coming to America and how studios handled it, but just the way society takes that and molds their own life is cool and inspiring to see somebody just see something totally different and connect with it. Something snaps in their brain and they're like, I get it, I understand what's happening, I'm gonna make something. This last one is a bit more sentimental, I think, and it is called The Real Miyagi. I watched this on Netflix a long time ago. I'm not sure if it's still there. I'm sure I'll type somewhere, I'll check, and if it is still on Netflix, I'll put right here. But it is about the guy who was the inspiration the inspiration for the character of Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid. It's about this guy named Demura Sensei who came over as, a Japanese immigrant, and he was like one of the very first people to start putting together these like karate demonstrations. Like, I feel like today the stereotype that I've seen in my small town, it's not that small, but it's the South, is like people come out in their gis and black belts and they put on some sort of demonstration, typically to the music of Mortal Kombat the movie, and they'll do some lazy choreography and break some boards. And Demura Sensei started that kind of tradition. He started that, and I'm sure he came up with much better choreography. And it bewildered people. They saw it and they're like, this guy is just beating up everybody with the most basic of movements, and sometimes we'll do something flashy, but barely needs to do anything, and he's kicking ass. But it tells his story of being the influence of the Mr. Miyagi character, later played by Pat Morita in Karate Kid, and he ended up being like a consultant for how this character should act, and he was also the stunt double for Pat Morita, and him and Pat Morita just becoming the closest of friends, and so close that it details the impact they had on both of each other's lives, but it shows the sadness and grief that Demura actually went through when Pat Morita unfortunately passed away. It's a very cool story that it shows this really cool guy in our history that people don't recognize, and it's just cool when something can take this real person that had actually a pretty big influence on something. The film Karate Kid is massive, but when we think of Karate Kid, we just think of Pat Morita when we think of Mr. Miyagi. But to find that he was kind of influenced and thought of based on this real guy, and then he also had influence on how the character was portrayed, and he became, I hit the mic, and then he became just super close friends with the actor, and it's this dude that inspired something that touched millions of people's lives, and he's a real person. And this movie talks about him, and it's really cool. Have you seen any of these documentaries? What did you think of them? Comment your thoughts down below. Comment if you have any documentaries that people should check out. Martial arts related documentaries and martial arts documentaries that you think I should check out. I know there's a Jackie Chan one from the late 90s. I've heard it's not that good, but it's just kind of, it's that thing that as a martial arts fan you have to see. Like, it's almost like collecting that one comic that it sucks, but you gotta have it. Tell me your thoughts down below. Like, share, subscribe. Head over to martialjournal.com for movie reviews, book reviews, TV reviews, just articles on all things martial arts. Thank you so much for watching. Check out some documentaries. Tell me about documentaries, and have a good day.